Have you ever wondered where to get started in your pricing journey, how to understand the impact that pricing can have on your company? If so, I recommend the following article that I have on the screen here. It is entitled Managing Price, Gaining Profit, and it's by Marn and Robert Rosielo, who were consultants at McKinsey for a long time. Now, you might have noticed down here that this was published back in the September-October 1992 issue of the HBR, and you might ask yourself, is this still relevant? And I can assure you that yes, this content is still relevant in 2024, which is when I'm recording this video, and I suspect it's going to be relevant for a long time going forward. Now, I'm going to include this link up here in the description of this video on YouTube. And before we get into it, I think you should read the whole thing. I do have two quick comments that I wanted to make. The first one is that this has original documents in here. You might be able to tell they're kind of blurry. In 1992, reproduction technology isn't what it is today, so I have recreated a lot of these charts on my own. So just keep your eyes peeled. If there were any errors, they're my mistake. It's not the mistake of the authors. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is way, way, way down here at the bottom, which again, I recommend that you read this article. They do cite two additional articles from Harvard Business Review. Now, the fact of the matter is I don't have digital versions of these articles, so I'm not going to discuss them as much, but you can imagine best practices tend to build on themselves over time, so these might be good ones for you to go back and take a look at some point. Anyway, let's get to my three big takeaways from this article, the things that I think persist, really have stood the test of time. And right here, there are the 1% impact of price, the price waterfall, and the pocket price band. So starting with the 1% impact of price. They're calling this Exhibit 1, Comparison of Profit Levers. The idea is up here, they're showing a 1% improvement in something creates an operating profit improvement of something else. So if you were able to improve your price by 1%, you would have an 11% improvement in your operating profit. If you were to do the same thing for variable cost, a 1% improvement there yields a 7.8% improvement in your operating profit. Good, but not as good as price. With volume, a 1% improvement here leads to a 3.3% improvement in operating profit. That'd be impactful. You'd be a superhero for your company if you were able to do that, but it's still not as good as price. And then the fixed cost, you can read. 1% improvement there, 2.3% improvement in OP. Now, these are aggregate values, and I think it might be worth taking a moment to step through an example of how this actually works. So I'm showing on the screen right now Excel. Let me get this centered for us. And the current, setup that I'm doing in this model is I have the price of, we're imagining a very simple company. I have one product, I price it at about $100. My cost is about $90. My volume, 200,000 units, and my operating profit is this. And just so you're clear, it's 100 minus 90, which is 10, times 200,000 results in an operating profit of $2 million. Now, you already know the punchline of which of these is the best, the improved cost by 1%, improved volume by 1%, improved price by 1%. You know that because you just saw the chart that I just had, but let's go ahead and move these things down. We'll delete that actually. Okay, my price is the same. I have improved my cost. I worked really hard with my procurement team, and I took my cost from $90 down by 1% to $89.10. Volume is the same, and now I can see my operating profit is up to $2.18 million. That is a 9% improvement over where we were, or $180,000. That's a pretty good improvement right there. If I take a look at the volume piece here, okay, so my price and variable compared to my current, they're the same, but the volume is up 1% again. Here I have an operating profit of $2,020,000, a 1% improvement there. Okay, I get that. The price, though, you already probably guessed this. If I go from average sell price of $100 up to $101, 1% increase, and leave all these other things the same, I'm going to have roughly a 10% increase here. This is a low margin business that I have set up, right? So you can imagine improving your price just a little bit is going to have a disproportionate impact of 10% or $200,000. So that is the power of pricing. A small change can have a dramatic impact on your fortunes, or in this case, what I'm calling your operating profit. There's all sorts of different books and articles and things like that that basically tell you the same point. Things like the 1% Windfall by Rafi Muhammad and other stuff that's out there. This is it. This is why pricing is so impactful. A small improvement up here means a big improvement down here. Now, in the real world, I would try to improve my price, cost, and volume at the same time to get the biggest bang for the buck if I can. But in this hypothetical, I could only improve one thing. If I only have time to improve one thing, it should be price. Okay, fantastic. Let's get back over to the second thing that I think is really cool in this article. This is Exhibit 2. This is called a price waterfall, or in this instance, they're calling it a pocket price waterfall. And what they're doing is kind of walking from start to finish. The concept of pocket price is super, super, super important in the world of pricing because that's the money that you're taking home in the end of the day after you account for all your puts and takes with costs, so it's in your pocket. That's where they get the name. Over here, and they're using some average numbers. Dollar per square yard. Okay, this is $6 per square yard. This is your list price, sometimes called a base price, sometimes called a starting price. That's just where you begin. Then you take out a little bit for an order size discount. If somebody buys a lot, they tend to get a better price. Not everybody buys a lot, so these are all aggregate numbers. Then maybe you had to lower the price for a competitive discount. And when you take those two things out, you get to $5.78. This is called your invoice price. It's the price that people are going to see when they're paying their invoice. Now, the trick or the intuition here is that when you are in the pricing world, you need to also care about things that are not on the invoice. So things like payment terms, annual volume bonus, I would have called this a rebate nowadays, off invoice promos, maybe a different type of rebate, co-op advertising, things like freight. Everybody gets crazy about freight. And when I take all these other cost to serve elements away from my invoice price to get down to my pocket margin, I see I only have $4.47 in my pocket for a total, I'll use the word discount, of 22.7% off invoice is what they're calling it. So this is the reason that pocket price waterfalls are so impactful, because I can quickly visualize where the problem or the biggest revenue leak, as they're calling it in the title here, is in the setup. I would say it's somewhere between this annual volume bonus and this off invoice promotion. You're looking for the big negatives, which are right here. Nowadays, with modern data visualization software, when I'm running price waterfalls, I tend to make these negatives bright red, so there is no question that, oh my gosh, these are hurting me, they're money out of my pocket. But anyway, you can do it how you want. So if I was trying to improve my profitability in this particular example, I would probably start with the annual volume bonus, the off-invoice promos. Probably think about these payment terms discounts, because that's a pretty healthy discount just for paying on time. I don't know that I need to incentivize that. Although those are, famous final words. I sure like my money, and if I need to give up a little bit of it to have people pay me, I'm probably willing to do it. Sometimes we'll end up seeing things. Freight is very, very common, and nowadays where we are in the economy in 2024, freight prices went way up, they have come down, they tend to go up and down and up and down, and there is Amazon has kind of conditioned a lot of customers to expect not to pay freight, which can be a problem for a lot of companies because there's still a freight cost going out, and I don't have revenue coming in on freight. So that one is usually a hot button issue that I end up talking to my customers about quite a bit. How can we fix freight? Okay, the final exhibit that I have that I think is really great in this chart is right here, this Exhibit 3. Elements of a pocket price band reveal profit opportunities. And what we're looking at is a histogram where we're showing the percent of volume at different price points. So 2.7% of the volume transacted at $5.80, between $5.60 and $5.80. 5% was at this $5.60, 10% was at $5.40, so forth and so on. So you can see that the majority of the transactions are in this range right here, somewhere between we could even say $4.20 up to $5. And that's kind of what I would call the market price. I think when you see a histogram like this, a lot of people, the first time they see it in relation to a pricing exercise, they say, oh, there's actually a lot of distribution of within a price profile for a given product or set of customers or things like that. It is very rare to see a one price fits all scenario, and that's true in B2B or B2C. That's why I say this is kind of a universal concept here, that that there's usually a range of prices that people are paying. So a couple of takeaways from this is, if somebody really wanted to hear what is the market price of my particular item here, again, I would say it's in this range, $4.20 to $5. Maybe I would pick the biggest one, $4.60, if I had to just pick one price to rule them all. But there's a couple of other things that are really interesting. Some people are not as price sensitive. Their willingness to pay is higher. They'll pay more. They'll pay this $5.80. Now, if you think back to that Exhibit 1 of the 1% windfall, where I want to get just a little bit more price, and that's going to have a disproportionate impact on my operating profit. This says to me there's a lot of room between $4.60 and $5.80. I could probably do a lot better. It's not like $5.80 is the highest price I have ever seen paid in all time. People are actually paying this. I didn't just pull it out of my head. So this should give businesses, and especially leaders, some confidence that yes, we can get more out of price. The other, side to that coin is down here. The lowest hanging fruit in any organization when it comes to price is cleaning up these, what are usually onesie-twosie transactions at the tail end of your price band. So 3% of your customers are paying this $3.80 or $4. Well, gosh, that's 60 to 80 cents below what we're going to call the target price right here in the middle. I need to move these to the center. When you end up seeing a dispersion like this or a distribution, that's an indication of variance within your pricing. And any good pricing practitioner knows that you should try to reduce your variance. You want to push toward a central tendency. And the way that you're going to push towards your central tendency is to move these onesie-twosie, low-hanging fruit prices over here over toward your $4.60. I would probably leave these on this side alone. If people end up wanting to pay me more, that's fine. They probably value something else about my product or service. That's okay. I'm willing to let them pay more. But again, push toward the central tendency by cleaning up these lower transaction prices. So those are the three big exhibits that I think are really impactful from this article. They are still relevant today. That 1% impact of price makes a lot of sense in pretty much any industry. You can get a lot of bang for your buck by focusing on price. That price waterfall is a great way to visualize where you might want to go attack price or go capture it, right? You're looking for the big, probably red, negative bars that show that you have some sort of usually cost to serve element that's out of control and is wrecking your profitability. So do something about it. And then the final one, that pocket price band. I think it's a great visualization to show that, yeah, we can do a lot when it comes to price. There's a distribution of pricing. We want to make sure that we are pushing toward that central tendency by cleaning up the low-hanging fruit, the onesie-twosie transactions. So this was just a quick one. I hope this was helpful. I intend to create a few more videos about this, kind of the basics of pricing and how you can get yourself up and running and without too much of a headache, because these are basic concepts. I think when people see them laid out like this, they say, yeah, I get it. Now the hard thing is to go get it in the real world. You can do it. Trust me. I've done it all sorts of times. It just takes a lot of focus. Thank you for your time. Let me know if this works for you. Let me know if you've had any success. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.